Hello everyone, and welcome to the zPaper wonderful world of digital paper. My name is Andrew Nerney, and I'll be serving as your Master of Ceremonies today as we take a look at how one might use the zPaper application to send and receive documents over secure fax through your Salesforce.com organization. Please be aware that this presentation may contain forward-looking statements involving risks, uncertainties, and assumptions. It is not our wish that you take actions based on any such statement. In other words, don't do anything or purchase anything based on what we say we might be able to do someday. Rather, you should only make decisions based on what we prove to you that we can do. Now, let's sit back and enjoy a blue sky ride through the zPaper tropical paradise. There are many ways in which one might pull information from Salesforce into a document and then send and receive that document with customers and clients. But here at zPaper, we strive to make your documents more intelligent. During this demonstration, we're going to take a look at how the zPaper application can be used to populate data from Salesforce into pre-designed form templates, route those documents to the objects within Salesforce as they are sent and received back and forth between customers and clients, log the activity history in Salesforce, which is very useful for auditing purposes. We'll then take a look at how one might use a data entry panel to allow Salesforce users to log information directly into Salesforce while viewing a document. And finally, we will look at how the zPaper application is seamlessly integrated with Salesforce, allowing for creation of workflows and alerts. So I'm here in a sample Salesforce organization that we have set up to mirror the needs of a client in the healthcare services industry. Keep in mind that zPaper application is a platform much like Salesforce, and it can be configured to meet a client-specific needs and therefore can be used across a wide variety of industries. But for the purposes of this demonstration today, we're going to be using the healthcare market. We've created a custom object in Salesforce called Episode of Care. And I'll go ahead and click into a sample episode of care and open up a record. In this use case, the client was a nonprofit organization, part of whose mission was to facilitate the communication between patients, medical care providers, and the patient's healthcare coverage provider. The challenge that this particular client faced was that they dealt with hundreds of different insurance companies and healthcare providers, each of which had their own set of forms that they wanted to use to request authorizations for medical procedures. We've defined this custom object episode of care as an encounter between a patient and a medical provider, which results in a diagnosis that requires referral to a specialist. And what the client in this case needs to do is to request authorization from the patient's health carrier for permission to send the patient to the specialist for further treatment. So in this case, we have our sample patient Benjamin Linus, who's gone to visit his primary care physician complaining of ankle and foot pain, and the primary care physician has requested authorization for referral to an orthopedist. So we created a custom button called Send Authorization Form, and we put logic behind it to call the zPaper servers and request the specific form for Acme Healthcare IPA. So I'm going to go ahead and click this Send Authorization Form button, and what's going to happen is the zPaper application is going to call up the right form and then populate the fillable PDF fields that we created with information that we already have within Salesforce. So I'll go ahead and click that button. It brings it up in a separate window. I'll go ahead and enlarge it so we can all get a good view of things. And as you can see, we've pulled information into the fillable PDF based on information that's already in Salesforce. We've got information about the patient's address, the date that the request is being made. We have information about the primary care physician. We have information about the physician that is requesting the referral. We have information about the specialist to whom the patient is being referred. We have diagnosis information. As you can see here, our patient Benjamin Linus, the doctor has diagnosed him with tendonitis and is referring him to the orthopedist for a couple of specific procedures. We can, if we so desire, fill additional information out into this document. Say we want to mark this as routine. We have a member number that we want to put onto the document. We'll mark this as Medicare, for example. Maybe we have some additional clinical information that we want to fill in. Information goes here. And this information that we fill into the document will be saved on the zPaper servers. It is possible to route that information back into the Salesforce record, but we're not going to do that here for this demonstration. So when I click the Send button, you notice that we've pre-populated the fax number of Acme Healthcare into this field up here in the top right-hand corner. We can put additional fax numbers or emails in here if we want to. Maybe I want to email this to myself as well. Separate them by commas. And we go ahead and click the Send To button. zPaper application is going to merge that information into a document, create a fax, and send it out. Once the document has been generated and sent, we can come into the zPaper Fax tab and then go to our fax viewing panel to view the fax activity. Since that was an outgoing fax, I'll go to the Outgoing tab. As you can see, there are a number of documents that I've been sending from this Salesforce org today. The latest one was the one we just sent, so if I click on the link, we will bring up a copy of the image document as it's stored on the zPaper servers. As you can see, we've saved the information that we entered manually into the document. We've saved the information that we pulled from Salesforce, and this document is out there on zPaper. If I look in the Filed column right here, if I see a little Salesforce logo in that column, that means that this document is attached to a record in Salesforce. And if I click on that logo, that's going to take us back to the episode of care, the custom object, and the exact record in Salesforce from which this fax was generated. Now let's take a look at barcoded document routing using zPaper within your Salesforce organization. I've downloaded here a copy of the PDF that was generated for the fax that we sent out to our sample healthcare company, Acme Healthcare IPA, and for the purposes of this demo, I opened it in a PDF editing tool and filled it out as if I were Acme Healthcare IPA, filling the form out and submitting it back to our client. Notice along the side of this document is a long barcode, and at the bottom of the barcode is a long series of letters and numbers and digits. Those of you who have familiarity with working with Salesforce will recognize this top part of this number as a Salesforce record ID. This is actually the record ID of the episode of care, the specific record from the custom object from which we generated this document in Salesforce. And these last four letters, AUTH, is a document type that I created in the zPaper application and defined this document. When Acme Healthcare IPA fills this document out and sends it back, the zPaper application is going to read that barcode and take certain actions that we have predefined based on the information that the barcode contains. So if I come back into my Salesforce organization, what I did for the purposes of this demo is I went to another fax machine and used the fax machine to fax the document that I just showed back to the inbound fax line from this zPaper organization. And if I come to the zPaper Fax Viewing panel and click on the link of the most recently received document, you'll see that we received an image of the document that Acme Healthcare filled out and sent back to us. They filled out, or I filled out, acting as our sample insurance company, a response to the request for authorization. And in our sample, we've gone ahead and approved Benjamin Linus for his visit to the orthopedist, filled out the information on the bottom about the carve-outs, the registered nurse's signature, the medical director's sign-off, etc. Notice in the filed column in the zPaper application, we have the little Salesforce logo. That means, as I said before, that this document is now associated with a record within Salesforce. The zPaper application read this barcode and that record ID and has attached it to the episode of care from which we generated this fax. And click on it and it takes us right back to it. the document is actually saved, not the document itself, but a link to the document is saved in the Notes and Attachments section on the record. That's important to note because the document is actually saved on the zPaper servers, and what we've saved here in the Notes and Attachments section is an HTML link. That does not count against your document storage limit within Salesforce. If you want to get back to that document easily and quickly, you just go ahead and click on the View button, and it will bring that document up on the zPaper servers. Now let's take a look at how the zPaper application can be used for audit purposes. I'm back in my episode of Care. If we go to the Activity History section, notice that there has been one record logged in the activity history for each document that we've sent from within this particular record in Salesforce. And if we look in the Notes and Attachments section, we can see that there's one record logged for each document that we have received that is associated with this record in Salesforce. If we want to view any of the documents, let's say, for example, we want to have a look at the original authorization request that we sent. I come to the appropriate record, open it up. Within that record, we have a link within the comments section. Click on that link, and this will open up in the zPaper application the associated document. If we scroll down to the very bottom of the document, you'll notice that there's a long series of letters and numbers. This is an identifier that is unique to this specific viewing of this document. So anytime somebody comes in and accesses this or any other document on the zPaper servers, the document is stamped with identifying information that contains audit information about who is viewing the document and what is being viewed. Very useful for audit history. Now let's take a look at how we can facilitate the manual logging of information into Salesforce from a document that's been received via secure fax or email. We're back in our episode of Care record. Note that the stage is set to new, the notes are empty, the reviewed by field is blank, and let's pretend that we just got that notification received back from Acme Healthcare IPA with the response for our authorization request. I'll go ahead and come into my fax viewing panel here. And if I click on the top link again, we can see the response that's been received. The user can come down to the bottom of the page here and see that Acme Healthcare IPA has approved the authorization request and that there's further information that needs to be logged on this record into Salesforce. In normal applications, the user would have to be clicking back and forth between tabs or printing something out and then going back to Salesforce and logging the information. With the zPaper application, we created a data entry panel. It's available in this drop-down list up here. So we'll go ahead and pick this panel, Authorization Update. This is linked directly into the record in Salesforce, and the user can simply read the information that's on the document that's been received back from Acme Healthcare IPA and make the appropriate updates into Salesforce. And you see we have an authorization number that's right here. So we can go ahead and log that, CA0000459977. We can see that the stage has been approved, so we'll go ahead and change that to authorized. Reviewed by, we'll put the name of the medical director, Thomas Jones. And any additional notes that we want to put in here, I can put some sample notes. And when I click my Save button, this is going to update the existing record in Salesforce. So I'll go ahead and click Save. And if we come back to our episode of Care record and refresh this, you'll see that the information has been updated. The stage has been changed to authorized, the authorization number has been logged, the name of the doctor has been entered in the reviewed by panel, and we have our updated notes. Finally, let's have a look at how the zPaper application can be used in conjunction with Salesforce workflow rules, alerts, field updates, and so forth. back in my episode of care, if I come down towards the middle of the page, you'll see that there's a section called zPaper Details. The fields that you see in this section are fields that are updated by the zPaper application at different times when we send and receive documents. And we can use these fields to create workflow rules, etc., to take actions in Salesforce whenever we send the document out or receive one back. A simple example is an email alert. I created a simple workflow rule, an email alert, to fire whenever the new fax field is set to true, and the fax type is auth, A-U-T-H, the document type that we defined. I wanted to notify the owner of this record whenever a response to the authorization request has been received. So when Acme Healthcare IPA sent the response back, the zPaper application read the document, checked this new fax field, and set this fax type field to A-U-T-H, and the workflow fired. If I go into my email, I see that I've gotten an email here, response for authorization request, notifying the owner of that episode of care record that a response has been received and further action needs to be taken. Put sufficient information here in my email, included a link to the record in Salesforce, and now the user knows that they need to go back into Salesforce, go to this record, read the response that's been sent, and take the appropriate action. Also, for the purposes of this demo, the things that I've shown you have mostly involved me clicking buttons. But that doesn't have to be the case. If I come back into my fax viewing panel and go to the outgoing tab, click on my top link here, you'll see a document that we haven't seen thus far. This is a response to authorization request. Remember a few minutes ago, I went into this data entry panel, pulled down the authorization updates, and filled in some additional information on this episode of care. Acme Healthcare IPA approved the request for Benjamin Linus's further treatment. So I set a workflow outbound message rule to send this document, the response to the authorization request, back to the original doctor that had requested the referral, notifying that doctor that the authorization has been approved. This concludes our presentation on document generation, secure faxing and emailing, barcoded routing, and integration with Salesforce workflows with zPaper. For further information, please check us out on the web, or email or call us, and someone will be in touch with you. Thanks for watching.